Hello, leaders. Welcome back. I'm so glad you're here because number one, it means that you, again, are committing to be that best leader possible and to help support your team members so they can heal their hearts from everything they experience. And I'm not just talking about what they experienced during COVID. I'm talking about even in our post-COVID world. You know this, healthcare has not returned to any sense of normalcy. And for most of us in healthcare, the God's honest truth is that we are going to experience differences and things that happen. In healthcare, you know this, many people every single day are experiencing incredible challenges. And I want to talk today about how you can show your team members that you really care about them. Boy, this is such an interesting topic because, again, if you think about it, this should just be something that comes naturally for most people in healthcare that are in leadership. Number one, because you probably were in a position where you were wired to care and you had a position in healthcare and you performed so remarkably that it didn't matter what you did. Somebody saw that you had this potential to lead and they wanted to give you an opportunity to actually try it out and lead your teams effectively. And so I feel like for so many people, when it comes to this idea of showing people that we actually care about them, this can be an incredible challenge for a lot of leaders. And I want to believe this really comes from a place, if you really, really just think about it, it comes from a place that as leaders, oftentimes we are so incredibly busy. We are responsible for so many things, and we don't build into our regular routine and practices ways to connect with our team members that are going to create those meaningful moments, that are going to leave lasting impressions for your team members to actually get to a state where they want to come back tomorrow because of your interactions and the way you made them feel. And I will tell you, over the course of my career, I've shared this with you. I've been very fortunate to have extraordinary mentors in the very early phases of my leadership journey. And those individuals really imprinted that concept very deeply in my mind, that we care for people in the end of the day. And if we're not laser focused and we don't zero in on that, the how we care for people, we miss the mark. And our people go home and they wonder what we were doing all day and how we didn't even have a clue as to the challenges that they faced. So I'm going to remind you, here in Life School, you're also on a journey, just like your team members are on a journey. They're on a journey to be the best healthcare worker possible. But you are on a journey to be that leader that makes a difference in their lives, that keeps them in the field through your words and your actions. So I'm going to start by talking about something that I am super passionate about, which is inspiration and encouragement. I feel like these are two principles when it comes to leadership that are just essential for the work in healthcare. You have to be that leader that comes in each day and has this ability to inspire, motivate, and encourage your workforce. That comes with the territory. And for some people, I know what you're thinking. You're sitting there thinking, here goes Arleen on her soapbox, getting all woo-woo on us. Yes, I am getting woo-woo on you because, again, you care for people. And those people that you lead, they turn around and provide care delivery to your patients, to your families, and your visitors. These are all your customer base. And so if they don't feel it from you, then guess what? They're not going to give it out very easily. So because you're the role model, you're the person that the team members, your team members are going to look up to, it is incredibly important to land this concept really well. And so what do I mean by being an inspirational and motivational leader? Well, sometimes it's easier for me to educate on what not to do, because conversely, the opposite is an easier idea to grasp. So if you're coming into work and you're not even saying good morning and hello, and you're not even have a little pep to your step, then no surprise that you're going to see the same with your people. So again, I talk very openly to everybody that knows me knows I talk very openly about having the leadership competency of resiliency despite adversity in my individual development plan as a leader for about 3 years. I mean, I worked really hard at this because this did not come naturally to me. And when I look back at it and all the work that I did in this, again, I'm going to remind you, it's as simple as this. It means regardless of what happened to you yesterday, regardless of what happened to you a week ago, you come back, you're able to recenter, and you're moving the team forward in the forward motion. And that is why it's a development skill and it's a competency in leadership that we must all strive to develop and learn ways to manage that. Now, I did all kinds of work in this, and I'm going to tell you very simply, you are going to figure out what works for you. For me, what worked for me was really using my commuting time to listen and jam out to some very amazing music, to shift my energy, to get my energy up so that when I came in those front doors, I was ready to go. And this was so important in that early sort of development of my leadership journey, because for me, my children were very little. And it was highly stressful getting them up, ready for the day, off, on the bus, on to school, and then to get to work on time. A lot goes into that. And you have to remember that the people that you are leading, they are probably experiencing very similar challenges, or those challenges could look differently. They could be taking care of older adults at home, or others with chronic illnesses, or have children with special needs. They could be having financial issues. There's lots of things that go into this equation. And so you being that person that is able to create that space every day where people can come in and feel energized, that is a leadership skill that's learned through practice. And you're going to do it over and over and over again until you get to mastery. Now, I know what you're going to say. Some people say this to me all the time. It just doesn't feel natural to me. And I'm going to tell you, nothing feels natural when you're in that learning phase, in that early proficient phase where you're truly not proficient at it. But how do you get to move through those different phases and to move from being like a novice skilled learner to getting to that point of mastery is through repetition and doing it over and over again in all different settings and situations and environments. That is the quickest way to do it. So I want you to think about that. How are you coming in and greeting your teams, saying hello, and connecting with them, and encouraging them that today is going to be a great day, right? There's power in that. And if you don't believe me, hang out with a few people that are the doom and gloomers. And very quickly, you will be scratching your way to try to get out of any situation. Because if you're in that environment where people cannot create that energy and that excitement and that enthusiasm, then they're not going to want to experience life. It's no different than the challenges that people face when they're teachers and they're teaching students. If you have a teacher that is teaching your child that isn't skilled at this, that doesn't create a love and a passion for learning, and they're just going through the motions, how engaged in learning is your child? I mean, how do they tap into the curiosity if they're just going through the motions? It doesn't happen. And that's why I feel so passionate about this when it comes to leadership, because this is a core leadership characteristic, your ability to do this and do it in every given situation. So even if it's not natural for you, I'm going to tell you, you can do it through practice. And trust me, the warm and fuzziness will go away, and it will just be the way you are known to operate. And it is important because you want your team members to be able to encourage and motivate and inspire their patients, right? Think about this. I mean, isn't that what you want? You want those patients to have a really good experience because the way care was delivered to them was done in such a way that it made them want to push through, even though they thought they didn't have it in them. And I will always talk about, my experience as being an oncology nurse is really where I learned this in the practical sense as a nurse. I mean, I learned this because I remember having these conversations with some really amazing mentors back then. And you all know who you are because we all worked together. And they were extraordinary at it. I mean, that's a gift that you're able to give a person, is your ability to encourage someone and get them to see it from a different perspective. And I will always think about those moments when I was in oncology where I was told, to always offer hope. Like there's incredible power with hope. Like hope is transformative when it comes to care delivery. Like when you're hopeful, when your workforce is creating hope for people, amazing things happen. That is why it's so incredibly transformative, because hope changes everything. And it's a must in healthcare. We've got to be hopeful because healthcare is full of lots of challenges. And if you haven't quite figured it out, if you're looking at our world, the way people are responding and reacting to one another is less than encouraging. It's less than inspirational, and it certainly doesn't give us great hope. So that is what people are exposed to every single day. It's what you're exposed to. It's what your team members are exposed to, your patients, their families, their loved ones, everybody that walks through your front doors. So as a leader, that is what people are bringing into your workplace. And so it's so incredibly important to make sure that you're creating that very safe space where you as a leader recognize that, number one, this work that your team members do is such difficult and challenging and complex work. I mean, even for those that have been doing it a long time and their skills are at mastery, it still plays a toll on their spirits because doing it over and over again and constantly providing care without having somebody return it back to them, that person, to give them an encouraging word, to say how much they killed it in that really difficult situation, it changes everything for that person. I mean, it can fill you up inside very, very quickly. So, I think about all the times in my life where it really was those situations where I had somebody that encouraged me and pushed me and saw something in me. Those were those really great mentors that not only believed in me, but they forced me to look inward at myself and to see the areas where I needed to get better and I needed to be much more consistent. And as a leader, I'm going to tell you, caring about your people, taking the time out to inspire and encourage them, or to just even notice them is something that comes with the territory in leadership. Or at least it should be, because we're in the business of caring for people. And the way we care for people is through the way we lead our teams. It's just that simple. And I'm also going to remind you, a big piece to all of this is that you have to realize in this world, for so many people in healthcare, they are not coming home to encouraging situations. Listen, I've talked to so many physicians in my life, and nurse practitioners and nurses, and people who have worked really long hours doing what they know they love and they were destined to do. And then they come home expecting that they're going to receive encouragement and inspiration and acknowledgement and gratitude of, like, I'm sure that was a tough day and you did such great work. And they come home to a whole lot of complaining and somebody that discourages them. That happens every day. Probably happens even outside of healthcare. I would imagine it happens everywhere in any given situation. And that's why it's so important as a leader to be that person that shows that you care through your words, deeds, and actions. It's the fastest way for you to connect with your people, and it's the fastest way for you to keep that flame burning and keep that person connected to their purpose and to ignite that passion in them and to push them forward to another day. That is so critically important, because in life, while we're here in life school, we are all navigating the complexities of everything that's happening, not just in the workplace. And so for those of us in healthcare, it's all the uncertainties of the day, whether it's dealing with patients or reimbursement or medical conditions or staffing challenges, a million things that are coming into that space. But in addition to all that, we leave our workplaces and we go home. And for many people, there's lots of uncertainty that happens as well. And so you have to be laser focused in, number one. So, we talked about inspiring and encouraging and being that type of person that helps lift up your workforce and pushes them through another day. The second thing that I'm going to talk about is making meaningful connections to people and actually noticing when your team members are not having the best day. I think about this situation when I was a consultant and I was working with an organization, and I happened to come across, I was walking in the organization, I happened to come across somebody where I noticed that they really did not look their best. I mean, you could tell it in somebody when they don't look well, but they're still there and they're trying to push through. I mean, you could see it in their body language. You could see it in their appearance. You could see that sort of exhaustion. It takes on a different form if you're an expert noticer. And I remember seeing it in this person. And I had a conversation with the director of nursing about that person. And I literally said, I'm very worried about that person that I met at the door. And I described the person and I explained it. And that person said to me, that this person had just returned back to work after being out for an extended period of time on an illness, but, is now back to work. And again, I'm going to remind you, when it comes to your workforce, you really have to develop those expert noticing skills. So for that individual, right, that's returning now back, not operating at 100% yet, knows that they still have to come back, right? Because not everybody can stay at home and just, continue to push through. Sometimes people have to come to work sooner and not feeling their personal best. And some people are struggling with a lot of things that are happening in their life, not just emotionally, but financially. There's a whole lot of things that come into play here. But if you're not noticing that someone's having a difficult time and you're not taking the time out to really engage in a two-way dialogue to figure out how you might be able to provide additional support to that person because you're seeing that they're not operating at their personal best, then you're missing the mark as a leader. Like, you are truly missing the mark. You're missing an opportunity for that person to have this connection with you, to feel as if they are being cared for. And again, for those of you that think this might be a little too woo-woo, I'm going to remind you that think about it. Again, really, really think about this. You're in the business of healthcare, right? And your sole sort of purpose, that mark of success, is not only really good, strong outcomes, but a workforce that is skilled and able to provide compassionate care that offers healing, that is transformative, that changes people's lives, that makes that person want to come back and do it all over again, and to come back to your healthcare center to receive healing. That is 100% your goal as a leader. You want to see that. And if you're not willing to care for your people and to really spot those areas and as opportunities, how there are things you might be able to do to make that person's day easier and or better. So maybe it's either pitching in or altering their assignment or making sure they're taking time out to get care. Or for me, for this person, when I was consultant, it was me running out and getting something and giving it to that person and just saying, I could see that you could use something to cheer you up today. And it was a gift card for like $5 at a local place for them to get a cup of coffee. Again, those are the things that are going to stick with people. And I'm going to remind you, in healthcare, we need to do better at creating moments between us as leaders and our team members. And that's not going to happen if you're just sitting in your office or you're in meetings and you're not engaged with your team members. You're going to miss every single one of those opportunities. And then you're going to be scratching your head, and then you're going to be talking to your recruiters in HR and saying, we need to keep hiring people, and I don't know why nobody ever wants to work. And all of these alternative stories that you're going to be telling yourself are the reasons why people don't want to work under your leadership. It happens. It happens every day. But you know what the most beautiful thing about leadership is that it is learned through practice and repetition. You can absolutely achieve mastery by zero in and self-reflecting on those things that you need to do differently. And connecting with your team members, creating meaningful moments, spotting pain and suffering, spotting challenging when they're experiencing it, those are going to be the things that you are going to need to teach yourself to keep your eyes focused on. But I'm also going to remind you, as a leader, be very, very careful that that's not the only place you go, because your people that are working at mastery, where everything's going their way, they've got the skills and they've developed them, and they're sort of in this moment and gelling and everything's working their way, they also need your attention. They need praise and recognition. And so often when it comes to leadership, what happens is we find ourselves working with those people that are at the bottom, who really need that lift up from us as leaders. And we totally forget about all those people that are our highest performers, that are doing it and doing it well. And we ignore them and we don't interact with them at all. And we just sort of put them on cruise control. And what you will find is that only lasts for a period of time. That connection between you and that person will slowly begin to sort of dissipate. So as a leader, you have to think about everybody in your team. So for me, I know, all the times when I've led high performing teams, I always made sure I had an individual, quick plan in place for every single person on the team, because everybody was different and everyone needed to be led differently. Like, I couldn't just deliver cookie cutter leadership to the whole team. Like, people know that happens, and they certainly are smart enough to realize it when it happens. They're going to see that you're not able to connect with them on the things that matter to them the most. And so part of that is you making sure you're building in the time to get to know people, to form the relationships with people, and to really understand what motivates that person and what is important to that person when it comes to the way you lead it. So there's a million ways you can do this. You can do this by just asking different questions. You can ask somebody, what is the one thing that you need from me every day? And if that is not something that you're comfortable with doing, because you're like, I certainly can't commit to something every single day, then just leave it open-ended. What's the one thing that you always are looking for when it comes to a leader supporting you? Like, what is a must-have in your must-have column? Not a nice to have, like what's in your must-have column? Because I need to know that if I'm going to lead you and I'm going to help grow you and support you and find opportunities in this organization where you can try out different things and you can grow and be the best version of you here in life school. That is so, so important. And as leaders, I cannot stress this enough. This is going to come from a place when you actually have a willingness or a desire to want to do it. So I see this so often in leadership. I feel like the people piece is a piece where people really struggle. So if this is you and you struggle with like the connecting with people, I can just say the best strategy that I've seen that works in these kinds of situations is just being open, honest, and transparent with your team members. Like, honestly, it's going to give you incredible credibility because your team members already know that's how you operate. And by you admitting it and stating it and making it a very safe place to talk about it, your credibility is going to rise up to a level that you can't possibly imagine. That is in store for you. That is 100% possible when it comes to the way you lead your teams. So talking about the things that you're not great at, but you're working on it and you want them to keep that in mind, that is so important. I can't tell you how many times I had conversations like this in the very early part of my leadership journey. There were times when I had conversations and I would say to people, I'm not really good at listening to you. I know that. I'm trying to work on this skill. I'm trying to do better at asking questions and not offering solutions. Like, I want you to know from a place in my heart, I'm not consistent with this. I'm not always going to do this on a regular basis. But I promise you, if you would be so kind, if I slip into that mood and if you tell me, it really is going to make me feel like you've got my back because you know that I'm really trying to work at this. And I know I'm not always going to be perfect. And as I'm learning and growing, I'm going to have slip-ups. I mean, just imagine how that conversation will change your relationships with your team members, especially for those of you that believe that you're fooling your team members into being something that you're not. It is going to change the entire dynamic. It's going to change the relationship by making yourself more vulnerable and by being transparent. And you are also going to be teaching them that it's safe to grow and develop and to constantly do that here in life school. And as leaders, that is something we all must attain. We all must teach it. We must teach people that growing is a natural part of our skill development here in life school, no matter what we do. We all must continue to grow and get better and better and better and better. And that staying in that status quo, especially in healthcare, is incredibly dangerous. So for you, it's about learning those ways to create that safe place for people to do it and to do it extremely well. And again, I want you to think about the why. Why does it matter that you find ways to show your team members they care? I mean, I really want you to think about this. Why does it matter? Why is that important? Because when you show somebody that you care and they can feel it, it changes everything. Very suddenly, overnight, the help that you need and the way you respond to their needs by leading and showing and role modeling and being an example will absolutely be something that will be reciprocated as well. They will be more open to do that because you are leading the way as the leader. You are constantly showing your team member that you care about them, that you're in it to help them heal their hearts from everything they experience every single day. And if you haven't come to that realization that this is needed in healthcare, I'm going to remind you, we need people to care for our patients and those who are sick. That's 100% a reality. And you do not have the opportunity to lose sight or miss out on anybody coming through your doors who you can't learn how to lead them in the way that matters to them the most. That is how healthcare is going to change. It's when every single leader comes to that realization that the way I lead has to evolve, that the way I lead has to be specific to the person, that the way I lead really makes a difference in that person's life. When we get every single leader in healthcare walking in that way, we can see the benefit of true healing. But there are hundreds of examples of how leaders have done a poor job of interacting and engaging with team members through communication, through body language, and through their words, deeds, and actions. It happens every day. And so one of the ways that you can do this, if you're really struggling with this, is through self-reflection and slowing down your pace and making sure you're finding and scheduling time to round and to connect with people and to have a quick conversation, even if it's just to build somebody up and to be encouraging. Listen, you know when things are crazy in your units and in your healthcare centers, you know this. I mean, you can feel the energy. You know it. You know when people are working beyond their ability to be able to do things really well. I mean, I worked in the emergency room and I 100%, there were times when we were not only full, we had to divert because we couldn't take on anyone else. There was just no more room at the end. And a leader's ability to come down in those moments and to really help team members focus and to encourage them and to help them by finding ways to connect during those really tough moments, that changes everything for the person that's providing the care. I mean, one simple act of kindness, of just your time or showing gratitude or appreciation or buying pizza for people because they don't even have a second to go heat up their lunch or they're not even going to eat. That in of itself is going to stick with people. And that's really going to help them. It's not going to solve every problem, but it's certainly going to help them to believe that the person that is leading them is really in it because they care about them. And isn't that what we should all be doing here in life school, in healthcare as leaders? I mean, really, isn't that what we should be doing? Is role modeling that we care because we care for the greatest workforce in the world? I mean, it really is an opportunity to help to transform healing by the way we engage with our team members by learning new practices and ways to do it. So if you struggle with this, I'm here to tell you it is possible. It is 100% possible. Just keep doing it over and over again. And if you miss a day, that's okay. Just don't miss days and days and days that turn into weeks and months that your teams are out there in the front lines and you are not engaging with them and creating that place where joy and happiness is happening and flowing, because that's when you're going to lose your team members. And we can't afford to lose them because that's what they were designed to do. And you certainly want to be that leader that when it's your end in time, that you have droves of people that are talking about you and saying, that person was an exemplary leader. I am so thankful that they were in my life for that short period of time, because every day they made a difference in my life. They kept me here and they kept me wanting to come back. Even though it was full of challenges, they were there. And imagine how that would change healthcare if we just did that every single day. Listen, I hope you enjoyed this podcast and I hope you took something from it. And if you don't hear it enough, I can't say it enough. Thank you for everything you do every single day in leading the workforce. You're doing it and you're doing it well. And even while you're learning, you're getting better just by being here. So listen on a future podcast and thank you all. Goodbye.